If setting boundaries in your house turns into an argument every single time, you're not feeling that boundaries. You're probably just setting them in a way that your child's nervous system experiences them as negotiable. A lot of parents think they have a boundary problem, when what they have is actually a delivery problem. They're explaining way too much. They're justifying, they're bargaining, and without meaning to, they're teaching their child that boundaries are open for debate. So let's clear up exactly what boundaries are. A boundary is not a threat. It is not a punishment and it is not a power move. A boundary is simply a limit that protects safety, routine, or respect. Children don't push boundaries because they're trying to control you. They push boundaries because their brain is wired to test the environment. Testing tells them, is this a true rule? Is this rule consistent? Is this adult actually in charge here? When boundaries change based on your mood, your energy, or how tired you are, kids push every time, more and more. Not because they're manipulative, but because the system feels unstable. So, the first shift that changes everything is this. Boundaries work best when they're boring and predictable. Again, boundaries work best when they're boring and predictable. Not emotionally charged, not dramatic, just steady. Instead of long explanations in the moment, boundaries land best when they're stated clearly and briefly. For example, instead of, I've told you so many times that you can't jump on the couch because you're going to hurt yourself and I'm exhausted and this is getting ridiculous. A calmer boundary sounds like this. The couch is for sitting. If you want to jump, we could go outside. Same message, different nervous system impact. The second piece most parents miss is that boundaries don't work if they're not paired with a follow through. You have to follow through. A boundary without a follow through sounds like a suggestion. For example, if you say, if you throw that toy, it goes away, and then that toy keeps getting thrown out and nothing happens, your child learns that words don't matter. Not because they're disrespectful, but because the pattern is inconsistent. A follow through doesn't have to be harsh, it has to be predictable. The third piece that prevents power struggle is giving children control choices inside the boundaries. Boundaries don't mean total control over every detail. They mean you set the frame and the child has choices inside of it. For example, instead of put on your shoes right now, you can say, it's time for shoes. Do you want the red ones or the blue ones? The boundary is still non-negotiable. The choices give your child a sense of autonomy. This reduces the power struggle between the child's nervous system and feels included rather than overpowered. Another mistake that fuels power struggle is over-explaining in the moment. When emotions are high, the child's brain isn't available for logic. So long explanations don't teach, they escalate. Save teaching moments for calm moments. In the moment, the boundary should sound simple and neutral. I'm not going to let you hit. Snacks are for after dinner. We're leaving the park now. No lecture, no emotional charge. Now, let's talk about what to do when your child has meltdown after a boundary is set. This is where many parents tend to cave. Parents assume that the meltdown means that the boundary was wrong, but meltdowns actually often mean that the boundary was felt. So, your job is not to prevent every emotional reaction. Your job is to stay regulated while your child has the reaction. You can validate feelings without changing the limit. I know you're upset. I know it's hard to leave the park, but we're leaving right now. This teaches your child that feelings are allowed. Limits are still limits. Over time, this is what reduces the intensity of pushback. Another common trap is inconsistency in reinforcement between caregivers. If one adult enforces a boundary and another quietly undoes it, children learn to triangulate. This doesn't make them manipulative, it makes them adaptive. Consistency between adults is one of the fastest ways to reduce boundary testing. Now, Let's address the fear underneath many parents' hesitation. They worry that being firm will damage the relationship between adult and child. But children feel safer when adults are calmly in charge. Predictable leadership is regulating. What damages trust isn't firmness. It's being unpredictable, big mood swings, and broken follow throughs. And finally, here's a reframe that helps boundaries feel lighter. You're not being mean when you set a boundary. You're being a nervous system anchor. You're showing your child that the world has edges, the adult is steady, and you don't have to carry the responsibility of deciding everything. That's what actually reduces the power struggle over time. Not talking more or more explaining. Rather, it is more calm, more clarity, and more consistency. If boundaries have felt exhausting, it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. It usually just means that you've been carrying the emotional labor of boundaries without the structural support. And now you have both. Bye, guys.